Hey bosses, welcome back to my channel, and today on Show Me the Money, I'm going to show you the bubble. Hey bosses, my name is Jevaux. I'm an economist and a real estate agent and developer here in Miami, Florida. And today I want to talk to you about the bubble, the market bubble, the real estate market bubble that everybody is talking about. And to illustrate our conversation, I'm going to do a presentation for you guys where we are going to talk about the 3 I's of real estate: inflation, inventory, and interest rates. Those are the main factors those are 3 big factors that should guide you on your real estate investment. And I'm not here to try to convince you about anything. You do whatever you want with your money. You invest whenever you want to invest. I'm here to talk about facts. I'm going to show you facts and how you should use those facts to do your own research and make your own decisions. I'm not here to convince. I'm here to show you the money and the bubble. We are having right now the highest inflation in the last 40 years. We are almost in 10%. It's about 8.3% inflation here in America. I am from Brazil, so I'm used to high inflation. I grew up in an economy that we had 72% inflation in 1 month. So imagine that throughout the year. But Americans in the last 40 years haven't experienced that. And that's why a lot of people invest here. And that's why a lot of people are concerned. But when we look in the last 40 years, we had economy recession in the 80s, in the 90s, in 2000, 2010, and recently a little one because of COVID. And what we see in all those recessions is inflation, high inflation. And also, because it's a recession, we have a low growth of the economy, which is not more or less what's happening right now. Right now, we have high inflation and growth. Some people are saying that in the near future, we're going to have stagnant inflation, where the economy stay stagnant for a little period of time while inflation is high. But people want to protect from inflation. Inflation is nothing but the devaluation of the currency, in this case, the dollar. We need more dollars to buy the same things. Gas a year ago was $3. A year before that was 2 and something. When I got here to America, it was 1.9. And now the gas in some places in America is $8. Here in Florida is 4.4, more or less. Some places 4.6, 0.7, whatever. But I need more money, more currency, more paper to buy exactly the same thing, and that's inflation. It's not that the gas went up. It's because we have more dollars in circulation, and that brings it devaluates the currency, the dollar. So how do we protect ourselves? How do we hedge? In financial industry, use hedge. But how do we protect ourselves with inflation? A lot of people use real estate. And they are right in doing so, because real estate, number one, is real, is there, you can touch it, you can feel it. And in historical numbers, if you look historical data, real estate goes over inflation in about 4% per year. So you are protecting yourself because the prices of real estate usually go up in a pace that is higher than the devaluation of the dollar. So you are actually protecting yourself. You buy a house today, you had a 10% inflation, you have a 1% inflation, your real estate is going to worth more than that. So even though the currency values less, you need more money to buy the same property, real estate actually goes up in value. And I'm going to show you this in another graphic. Let's take a look on this graphic. This is the inflation, and where you can see the bars, the gray bars, those are recessions. We had a recession in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and early 2000 and end 2000, another one in 2020. And look what happened within those time. Number one, in the 80s, between Q1 and Q3, we had a recession. Economy didn't grow. How much real estate went up? This is the house pricing that I got from the Fed from St. Louis. Even though we had inflation and even though we had a recession, properties went up 4.4% over inflation. Those are prices corrected by inflation. So this already considered that we had inflation in that period. In the next recession, which was a little bit longer, 81 Q3 to 82 Q4, the prices went up 2.66%. In the next recession, we had 1990 Q3 until 1991 Q2, properties went up 1.1% over the inflation. 2001 Q2 to Q4, 2.8% asset appreciation over inflation. Of course, in 2008, we had reduction of the prices in 10.6% because on that recession was caused by the real estate market. Meaning, Daniel would buy 5 properties, live in one, rent the other 4, and make money on it without putting any down payment, with 0 interest rates, with interest only payment during 5 years. So I had no risk. I put 0 down. I bought 4 properties. I had Joe Blow living in one of my properties and their cousins in the other ones. And at some point, everybody that was renting thought, okay, if I don't need a job, an asset, or an income to buy a property, why the hell I'm renting a property? I'm going to buy one, I'm going to rent the other, and I'm going to buy 5 properties. I'm going to live in one, rent the other 3. I'm going to do the same thing that Daniel is doing. So everybody did it to the point that nobody wanted to buy a new house because everybody had 4 or 5. Everybody had a lot of properties with no down payments, 0 equity. So at some point, people saw that the houses were empty, they couldn't rent. The interest only period stopped. They had to pay actually the mortgage. So they just decided to pay. Why I'm going to pay? I didn't put any money in this property. I've been collecting rent for most part of it. So I'm not losing money. So I'm just going to hurt my credit, but not my bank. And I'm going to give that to the bank. The bank does whatever they want with that property. So the banks collected all those properties and tried to sell all at the same time. That's why the price went down. We do not have this at this moment. And in 2020, Q1 to Q2, where we had a recession because of COVID, the properties still went up 1%. So we can see that constantly, except to the year that the actual recession was caused by the real estate, every single time that we have a recession, prices goes up because people use real estate to protect their assets. So that's very important to know. And what happened if you bought a property and now you have a recession? Are you going to be able to rent on that? That's even better, to be honest with you. Let's take a look on the numbers. Same thing. The gray bars are the recession. 1980, the rents went up 4.8%. 1981, the rent went up 10% over inflation. 1990, the rents went up 2.3%. 2001, 2.8%. In that moment in 2008, the rents went up 4.8%. Why? People couldn't buy their properties because they had no credit. What they have to do? Everybody needs a roof to have over their heads. Everybody needs a property to live. Not every company needs an office or a warehouse, but every single person needs a property to live in. That's why between 2008 Q1 and 2009 Q3, the rents went up 4% because hedging. People always going to need a house to live in or an apartment, whatever. In this case, we saw on the other slide that the prices went up except in 2008, but when we talk about rents, even the rents went up. And look at what happened in 2020. The rents also went up in one quarter, 0.45%. So that's a lot. That's almost, if you annualize it, is almost 5% in a year. So inflation, it's good for real estate because to protect themselves, investors or individuals or companies or whoever, to protect themselves against inflation, they invest in real estate. Second eye of real estate, we are going to talk about inventory, supply and demand. I told you I'm an economist. I went to college and I literally studied for 5 years two things: supply and demand of assets, of currency, of food, of real estate, of labor, of everything. That's what economy is. It's all about supply and demand. Everything that is done in the economy is to control the supply and the demand, one or the other, or both together, so they get to as close as possible to an equilibrium. Let's look at the inventory. The inventory right now is the lowest since 2000. The lowest since 2000. The inventory is going down. Tell me, how can we have a bubble? Look how was the inventory in 2008. It was gigantic. In 2007, it was already high, and the prices started to go down in 2008. How can we have a bubble of an asset that is not enough in an economy? Let's take a look at this other graphic. The National Association of Realtors did a survey and they asked people, developers, how is the availability of developed lots? A developed lot is a lot that you can actually build something, a house, a multifamily, a condo, whatever it is. 70% of them said that it's very little. There's not a lot of availability. 22 said it was adequate, and 10 said it was plenty. So the inventory right now for units, it's low, and for lots, it's also low. How can people supply more houses to everybody that wants to buy, and there's not enough? There's 80 million millennials right now in America, and that is, for the first time, the biggest. The millennials, and I'm included, unfortunately, millennials surpassed the baby boomers. So now they've been working for 10, 12, 20 years, and now they are going to buy stuff. They are going to buy their houses because the rent is so freaking high. They want to buy their houses. But Daniel, they are going to be penalized because the third eye, interest rates, is going up. Yes, interest rates is going up. We are in one of the highest real interest rates for the last period. You can see the interest rates from the government, the interbank interest rate in red, and the mortgage rates, the average mortgage rate in blue. You can see that we had a bump right now, but the market's already anticipating a higher interest rate. So the interest rates now are super high. But look at this. This graphic shows a lot. This is the home sales versus mortgage rates. When the mortgage rate went from whatever it was to 5, the sales still went up. From 9 to 8 went up a little bit, like there was a 1% reduction. But from 2010 to 2020, we saw an increase of the interest rates and an increase of the sales. Why is that? Because never in the history of this country in the last 5 years, we had so many cash deals. People are buying cash. They have money, they have been saving money for a while, they are buying cash. 30% of the sales nationwide averaging right now is cash. But Daniel, you are in Miami, you're talking about real estate in Miami. That's true. Here is even higher for some segments. In the single family houses, almost 30% are cash. Condo and townhouses, we are over 50%. Half of the sales of condos and townhouses here in Miami only. In Broward is 60 something. In Palm Beach is even higher. 50% is cash. Tell me how in a market with no inventory, with half of people buying the properties cash, this is going to become a meltdown. How? If I'm buying cash, how is this a meltdown? And let's see another thing, very interesting. Delinquency rates went up last year, of course, because people couldn't work, lockdown and everything, but it's already going down. Foreclosure in red is less or almost 1%, close to 1%. And the foreclosure inventory, that inventory that was actually foreclosed by the bank and now is being sold, is almost zero. That shows that we have no foreclosure. 1% of the market, people. 1% of the market is nothing. In 2009, 6% of the market was in foreclosure. Even in 2009, only 6% of the market was in foreclosure. So the market is very, very good right now. So what do we have? 38% of the housing here in America have no mortgage. On the homes that have a mortgage, the average equity is almost $200,000. From those houses that do have a mortgage, only 2.1% have negative equity. A negative equity is that house worth less than what they own. So on those 2%, the owner could say, you know what? This is not paying my bank. I'm just going to start paying. That doesn't make any economic sense. I'm paying for something that doesn't worth what I'm paying. 2% of the market. That's almost nothing. 9 out of 10 mortgage are fixed rate. Fixed rate means if the interest rates at this point goes to 10%, they are not going to be affected on their 4.4% or lower mortgage. And unemployment rate is mega low, 3.6%. So guys, we have inflation going up, and we saw that prices of real estate go up over the inflation and rents go over inflation. So buying something right now will make you win twice, because the property is going to go up and you're going to make more money on rent. But residential, don't go commercial, because commercial are long-term contracts, usually without an annual correction. Usually they do bumps every 5 years. So I wouldn't buy commercial property at this moment. But residential, yes, for 2 reasons. The one I just told you, it's easier to correct the prices on a residential property. Number 2, everybody needs a house to live, but a company doesn't need an office to have their operations. And inflation going up, real estate assets to hedge. Number 2, interest rates going up, but cash deals happening. So that's not going to affect as much. And the third I, interest rates, inflation, and inventory, the lowest inventory on history. So make your decision now. Should you invest in real estate or not? With those things, I hope you do a great decision. I hope you have a very good investment portfolio to manage. And I hope those 20 minutes here helped you to make a better decision. And next week, I'm going to talk to you about which are the best assets, real estate assets, to invest right now to protect of inflation. So I'll see you there.